Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 37. And September 13th, Cadena, September update, teaser came out. It's not Adele, it's not Hayato, Cadena. Just pushing it back. Adele, all those people that are waiting. I know a lot of people that are waiting for Adele, have their warrior gear ready. And next song is just teasing them, teasing us. And I don't know what their plan is. I was just thinking about if Adele, September new class, remaster, Cygnus Knights remaster is going to come out. I would assume this year. Explore remaster was last December in 2022. So I'm thinking if it's not soon, it's going to be December of 2023. Are they going to try fit in Adele before that in November? Are they going to push it to January of 2024, similar to how Sia happened in January of this year? I'm curious what they do. A lot of new classes coming out. They decided to go with Cadena, a chain user, a thief, a button mashing class that I honestly don't know too much about. I have queued up some videos for you guys to see what their auto battles look like, what their skills look like, where they rank. But as far as I know, they are good, but require a lot of mastery, a lot of button mashing, similar to Blaster, where high damage output. But if people on PC version are saying that it's hard to play, mobile is impossible. It's going to be very, very challenging. I'm curious to see how they stack up with the other classes, how they how they play in our game. But you can see I'm here just in a spare room trying to get this out a little bit earlier or record it a little bit earlier. And was excited. I'm hoping and praying that there's something else. Class rebalances. I know Kana for the anniversary had class rebalance as well. I've basically just been telling everyone I'm expecting rebalances. So if it doesn't come out, I'm gonna be highly, highly disappointed and bummed out and just unmotivated to progress Damien even further. We're sort of stuck at a wall in our progress. I know there's an Asia team that is super close that should clear Thursday or after reset. They should clear. They're that close. So I'm excited for them. But as for everyone else in the game, a rebalance would just allow more teams to hopefully clear it, hopefully allow us to clear it. I still think we're quite a bit away. I don't know if a rebalance is going to be enough for us, but I'm excited to see, hopeful sort of with this first week before the patch notes or even more teasers, hopeful for rebalance, hopeful for a good update. This year has been good to me, good to us about patches and updates. And I just hope it finishes the year strong and gives us, some sort of something to progress in content and keep people excited and motivated to try Damien, to do Arc, to do Lotus, and push progress in any way possible wherever people are in the game. But in a little bit, I'm just going to share some videos that I found on YouTube with Cadena. Not sure, not really familiar with it at all. So I'll be right back and I'll show you some videos. So I got a few videos queued up here. We got the MapleStory M mobile teaser. We got a Coppersan's video of the tiers list from PC version. And then we have two other videos from when KMSM, it dropped in KMSM about auto battle, gameplay, about skills. So we'll jump into it and just see what this is all about. Teaser is always badass. Just hypes you up with that music. Kind of get to the vibe with that fight, that showdown with Magnus. Was that Magnus? Pretty sure it was Magnus. Yeah. Pretty badass to see. 20 seconds, real quick. gets you hyped. If you're a Cadena player, you want to play the class, or you're excited for it, that's pretty sweet. But this next video is Coppersan. He did a little ranking. This is a little dated. This is, ahead of our time, post sixth job, their savior tier list. So they just got sixth job in the PC version. So he has them B tier. He has them B tier. And the main reason he mentioned was because of just the gameplay, how hard it is to play the class, how challenging, it is to maximize DPS, min-max DPS to boss, to mob. And so it's just that much harder to play the class compared to other S tier, classes. So not saying it's bad, but just know that it's very, it's very blaster like. And if you know anything about blasters in our servers, NA, I think in Asia as well, they're just underrepresented. And before they kind of got macroed out of the the skills change, they were OP, best DPS class in the game. But now, curious to see what they do with Cadena and how they make it, how playable and viable it is in our game. But yeah, as you can see in this rankings too, look at all the Explorer classes at the top. Even Dawn Warriors are up there. This is all post remasters for them. Bowmasters are up there. Arans are S tier. Little different than our game. Bishops are that first one. So take it with a grain of salt, this tiers list, but kind of just to see, this is the tiers list that I found most recent. Maybe I'll do a tiers list in our game, a few weeks later to see how they stack up once they release, but stay tuned for that. Next one, this is just a video auto battling and 171 plus. We'll just speed up a bit. But one thing, whenever I look for auto battling, first of all, it's a skill wheel. And you notice there is a lot of skills there, type B already, 171, have cooldowns. So I always try to make sure that things are in the right order, priority order. I try to see what skills are doing what. I like to look at if it has any sort of iframes, defensive skills, self-healing to help with mobbing, how tanky they are. So he has about 155k HP, absolutely insane. And I think he gets hit for about 45Ks. So in this map, obviously, they just have touch damage. They don't have all of the magic attacks. So maybe not that big of a deal. But I'm just curious how tanky they are and what their survivability is like. They have a nice their own rope lift in there. Their main attack seems to hit multiple platforms and things like that. It looks pretty badass with little speed up to the gameplay. They have a Beyblade there. That's nice. Pretty short cooldown as well. They have a Tempest sort of hurricane skill. They had a bubble as well, that bubble right there, that I'm not sure what it does, but it looks flashy. It looks cool, very unique with the style of play. Well, as far as the animations anyways, with the chain user with the rope lift. But doesn't look like anything special, right? I think the main thing with mobbers is, do they have sort of passive damage? Things like Kaiser's swords, Demon Avenger swords, like Wind Archers, their guided arrows. Do they have some sort of big mobbing skill that's going to chain, like Lumis or Ice Lightning Mages, or Seas are kind of the best example. They don't really have a lot of that, right? You have to be, in order to attack, you have to be on top of the boss, besides that Beyblade right there. But I mean, they're thieves. It hits 2 platforms, one, above. So that's pretty cool, but nothing spectacular, especially from a thief. It's not like a Nightwalker level with the bats and things like that. So that's I guess underwhelming. This is their Tempest skill. That's pretty sweet. I'm sure it's more for bossing. 30-second cooldown, I'm pretty sure, is what I saw. Have some pretty unique skills. Yeah, but I have no idea anything about this class, about the gameplay. about bossing. I'm curious to see what it entails. If it's more like Arc, if it's more like Blaster. Can't wait to see. Can't wait to see what people do. If anyone even mains it, if people are excited about it, let me know in the comments below if you know anything about Cadena from PC days, from KMSM, how good they are, how strong they are, if you even plan on maining it, or if it's just a good alt for Legion. But it's tough, right? It's hard to re-roll when the class weapon is unique, right? Which is a lot of classes. So I'm curious to see what people do. There's a lot of good thieves out there, thieves classes as well. So I don't know too many people that are going to be re-rolling off of another thief class, especially with Cygnus Knights remaster coming up for the Nightwalkers, and obviously Explore remaster for Night Lords and Shadowers and Dual Blades. So we'll see. Excited to see. New classes are always fun, but it's more fun to see classes that people are excited for, that people have been asking for a long time in feedback. And I'm sure feedback section is going off right now. Why this class? Why not Adele? Where's Adele? But maybe they're saving it. I don't know. Save the best for last. I have no idea. But this is just sort of what I've been looking through, researching, and just finding content. Doesn't look like anything spectacular. This is probably pre-fifth job, I assume. But yeah. And then to finish this video, I wanted to talk about thief classes, especially with Cadena coming up. Last podcast, I talked about how I thought Demon Slayers stacked up with the other warriors. Kind of the top tier. Are they in the top echelon with the DKs, heroes, paladins, blasters? And in this video, I wanted to just show some love to the thief classes. I know a lot of people play thieves. We have a lot of Nightwalkers in our server that are excited about Cygnus remaster. Night Lords are very strong. Shadowers, Dual Blades, obviously. Xenons, Phantoms, there's all of them are really good. And I just wanted to give my input perspective on those players that, may decide to re-roll into a Phantom, just started playing, and what it's like in the end game, middle game. And so what I wanted to start with was which thief class do I think could use more? And I think there's only one, really, and I think it's a Xenon. They're the forgotten child. They're the one that gets overlooked. They are, just always there. It's just hard to compete with the other thief classes. They're flashy, but they're not exceptional. They don't have the greatest survivability. And I think that really shows. And I just think that if any of the thief classes need to get rebalanced and rebuffed, it's definitely them. Whether it's with their V skills, maybe giving more ignoring enemy defense, maybe a little mini iframe in there, things like that. But I feel like Xenons deserve some love and are definitely the tier below a lot of the other thieves, and maybe 2 tiers below just how good the thief classes are. And the next tier is, well, I would have to say Nightwalker. The Nightwalker in our Lotus runs and things like that is an end game. He's 30 mil plus, 31 mil plus cap, Force Adapso, 50, Mythic Flames, the best stats in the game, best potentials. And he doesn't beat me in Lotus. I got 25 mil cap. And so he's got probably 6 mil cap more than me, better stats across the board. And he beats me in Damien, but barely, right? And I think the biggest issue with Nightwalkers is they don't have a lot of lines, pretty similar to all the other classes, but they have a lot of small lines, a lot of small clones. That makes it very challenging, even with the best stats in the game, to compete. And then another one is if the boss starts moving, Omen is, you just lose a lot of DPS if Omen is misplaced, and you can't get your bat procs, your spear procs, and your procs from Omen that way. It just is a huge DPS loss. So a little bit of skill cap there, a little bit of boss dependency there as well. But Remaster's coming. Explorer Remaster's coming, and they are, I mean, not Cygnus Knights Remaster's coming, and they'll be just fine. I think they're excited about that. The attack speed improvement, the damage boost, and they're going to be, who knows what they're going to be post Cygnus Knights Remastered. They're holding out, staying tuned, and they'll be back on top very, very soon. And then I guess if I had to say right now, I'd say Cadena's probably on the same tier list as Nightwalker. Sounds like it's, maybe they may be stronger than people think, than I think, but requires a lot of skill cap. Obviously, like I mentioned before, it's a wait and see game for sure. Hopefully people play it at the highest level and showcase it, share content, share numbers. Excited to see how they are. If they have iframes, survivability, mobility, things like that, embossing definitely can be an X factor between other thief classes, especially the top tier ones. And I just feel like they are wait and see. Middle tier could be A, could be S tier, depending on what kind of numbers they put out. And then the top four, the big four, really are, in my opinion, pretty interchangeable. Night Lords have the best Lotus score. If the boss is there, if you can stand in there, be a glass cannon, just be a turret and have your shuriken on the boss at all times, you're able to maximize barrage. You can just stand there in DPS like an arc. And in Lotus, with minimum movement, Night Lords take the cake as far as lines and DPS and bossing. Their guild dungeon single target is definitely the best of the bunch. They have the best burst. Very similar to Paladin's playstyle as far as, barrage and echo goes, as far as shuriken and, hammers go, righteous hammers. It's very, very similar. If you give a Night Lord Synchro and echo from a Paladin, I think they'll just be the best. They'll be the best thief class by far. But that's just not always the case, right? I think that's what makes it very challenging to put Night Lords at the best. It kind of just depends on what content you're trying to figure out and which content you're talking about. Phantoms. Phantoms are insane. In some content like Covert and Mulong, for sure. I don't know one class that beats Phantoms. We have like our top five, 5 of our top 7, 7 of our top 10 Mulong scores are Phantoms, and they may not be the best geared. It's just the nature of the gameplay. It's just that easy. I don't know what it is, whether it's just their consistent damage and their burst. Maybe they choose certain stolen skills to maximize Tempest and Time Leap and maximize their burst, things like that. Synchro, Darksight, Freud, their iframes, they cycle through those things. I played the Phantom on the solo Lotus. Probably the best solo class in the game, right up there with Phantom, with Pallies. It's hard to beat. They don't have the burst. They cap very easily. They sort of got nerfed in some ways with their stolen skills, but they get more lines and stuff with Tempest and their V skills. Phantoms are always going to be good. Just face it, they're always going to be good in our game, and their utility, and they're always going to be needed with their buffs and their survivability and their res and their time leap, and just they're so always going to be good. Even if their damage, their burst isn't the best compared to the other classes, they'll always be S tier, maybe SS tier in my opinion. And then we got Dual Blades and Shadowers. Which one do I think is better? Again, I think if Dual Blades have the maximum funding, if they have good class buffs, if they have a lot of percent stats, they get Synchro, they get Divine Echo from a Paladin without all that final damage. I think Dual Blades outclass Shadowers. There's a Dual Blade in Asia that I think, there's a few Dual Blades in Asia that are still very, very strong, topping the DPS charts among the best of the best. And it's not a surprise. Dual Blades are very strong. And I think people think they took a step back, but I think at the end game, they're right up there with the best classes. They're their gameplay, their burst, their single target damage is insane. But I think classes are catching up. I think the Shadower is a lot more consistent. The gameplay is a lot, in my opinion, more fun. They got teleports, they got mini iframes, they got, all these sort of things. They have good, consistent damage, survivability. Their Mezzo Guard is very good. They have Dark Sight. They have Into the Darkness. I love Shadower. I think it's if I were to take one of the two, I would take a Shadower for sure, in my opinion. And I would argue that out of all the thieves, I think Shadower, based on the numbers, in like a 10-minute fight, in like a Damien fight, I think Shadower is right up there, probably better, a little bit better than maybe a Phantom and a Dual Blade. This is specifically Damien. So I'm just thinking that, like, as the next endgame boss, I'm curious to see how they all stack up. But if I were to choose, I would probably go for Damien specifically. I'll go Shadower 1, Phantom 2. Shadower Dual Blade maybe, then Phantom, and then Shadower Dual Blade, and then Night Lord, Nightwalker, depending on, it's tough. Like team comp and mechanics of the team is very important for Damien. I think eventually Night Lords will be the number one or up higher, but I think right now in the current state of the meta, with how challenging it is to control the boss and with mechanics, things like that, I think Shadowers are the safest, most consistent. Dual Blades and Phantoms are right up there with them. And for Lotus, I think Night Lords take the cake on that. If you see the DPS charts, the rankings, Night Lords are right up there with Mercedes and Paladins as far as just they do better in shorter fights where the boss doesn't move. Arc, Lotus is becoming that kind of that 4-minute window where you can maximize your burst and barrage and get all that uptime without the downside of it. Yeah, Night Lord's going to thrive, and the other classes just won't be able to keep up. So, like I mentioned, depending on the content, the thief classes you can pick and choose. I wouldn't disagree if you said Phantom was the best, Shadower, Dual Blade, Night Lord. But I definitely think Nightwalker is a tier below. Xenon is a tier below that. Cadena is probably the same tier as Nightwalker, maybe a little higher. But I'd love to hear you guys' opinion as you guys play those classes. Maybe you guys see something differently than I do out there. And maybe next week I'll talk about, next week I'll talk about the patch notes. Maybe I'll drop, talk about mages, archers you want me to talk about next, whichever one, pirates maybe. But I just love talking about, comparing classes, where the current meta is, and if there's any rebalance coming out, even better. Talk about that, see how the meta is going to change. Can't wait to see Asia clear Damien. Hopefully that happens before the next podcast. Hopefully there's more coming in this update, and it's not just Cadena. Hopefully they rebalance all the classes, some of the classes, hopefully all of them. Praying for Paladin buffs of some sort. And thank you for watching. We're close to 1,000K subscribers. Thank you guys for all the support and for watching, for listening. Let me know in the comments what you guys want me to talk about next, and Q&As, things like that. And I'll see you guys next time. September patch update is coming. Share with that. I'll talk about that in the next pod. See you guys next time.